This section is about vehicle handover. So naturally, under social distancing regulations at the moment, there's no way that a sales representative can sit in the passenger seat while explaining the controls. What I'm going to do today is just show you the controls on this particular vehicle, which is a Subaru Forester e-Boxer. Naturally, we have other models within the range, and they're not all exactly the same, but as I say, this one really is just to demonstrate to you what you can expect to receive from your dealership. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with something very simple, which is the key fob. Firstly, it has 3 buttons on the front, but it also has a small one on the rear. The rear one, if you press just with your thumbnail, you can then release the door key. So as I say, whilst this is an electronic key, you do have a backup with a metal key. On the front of the key fob, you find 3 buttons. The top button is the lock button. As you press it, you'll see the mirrors will move in on this particular model and the indicators will flash. The central button is the unlock. The button on the bottom operates the tailgate, so it's electronic opening. Okay, and we'll shut it again, so another press on it and it will shut. The other option for locking and unlocking the vehicle, if you have the key but it's actually away in your pocket, you can find the 2 small indentations on the door handle, press them, and again the door will lock. To open, very simply, drop your hand behind the handle and just pull. So I mentioned earlier about the central locking, unlocking the vehicle. The other item that it unlocks, of course, is the fuel flap. The fuel flap is opened simply by pushing your fingers onto the edge and then opening the fuel filler cap as you would normally open. Now around the rear of the vehicle, the tailgate. Now again, I mentioned that the tailgate could be opened in 3 different ways. One with the key fob, the second way is from a button on the dashboard, and the third is from the electric button, which you put it underneath the Subaru badge and press, it will open the tailgate. You have a rear parcel shelf, which is easily retracted. And very simply, pushing across to one side, you can actually remove the parcel shelf. You have some charge points and also the buttons to drop down the rear seats. If you've come back to the vehicle with something that's a little bit longer than the boot will allow to put in, you can simply pull the button on this side to drop the left-hand one and pull the button on the right-hand side, and it'll drop the right-hand side seat down. When you come to close the tailgate, there are 2 buttons you can choose. The first one on the right-hand side will actually just close the tailgate. The one on the left-hand side will close the tailgate and lock the vehicle. By pressing that one, you can simply press it and walk away and the car is locked. So now I'm going to run through some features that we can find in the rear of the vehicle. I showed you how the rear seats drop down by using the button that's in the cargo area, but just on the rear or the top of the rear seat, there is another button as well, which by lifting it will also drop the seat down as well. Also on the rear seat, you have the ISO fixed points. In the center, there are 2 USB ports, and similarly there are vents to control the airflow into the rear. As we move across to the door itself, you have an electric rear window. Now that obviously can be isolated from the driver's door with an isolation switch, so if you do have young children in the rear, they can't just lift the window up and down. And while we're talking about children, the other important feature is the security lock, the child lock on the door as well. So as I move to the front of the vehicle, the first thing I come to is the passenger door mirror, and it has a couple of features. One is blind spot monitoring. So for instance, you're on a motorway and in the central lane, and somebody comes up on the inside lane. To warn you of that, as the vehicle is approaching you from the rear, you'll find that there are lights that will light up in the mirror to warn you. The second thing within the mirror is this little bulbous area, which is actually a camera. That camera projects downwards. So this is used for when you're parking. So if, for instance, you are parking between 2 vehicles on a busy street, what it will do, it shows a line and gives you an indication on how close you're actually getting to the curb side. So you can park very accurately, very close, but without then damaging your wheels. As I move around to the front of the vehicle, we're going to look under the bonnet. Now, I've popped the bonnet hood. The release for that is when you're sat in the driver's seat, is almost level with your right knee. So if you put your hand on your right knee and extend it underneath the dashboard, you'll find the bonnet release. The actual catch for releasing the bonnet, if you look at the symbol that's on the Subaru symbol, underneath the star that's on the right-hand side here, if you put your hand underneath, you'll find the lever simply to lift it. But as you open the bonnet, for safety, obviously engage the bonnet stay. And what we're going to look at here are the 3 top-up points. So what we have is we have the one for the washer bottle, for radiator and oil. The vehicle, because it's got LED headlights, is also fitted with headlight washers, which are what they almost look like a blanking plate. What they do is they extend from the bodywork and spray the headlights when you're actually cleaning windscreen. Okay, so having looked under the bonnet, we're going to move our way to the driver's door. As we open the driver's door, one of the things you'll see first of all are the 3 buttons here. What these are for setting the seating position on the driver's seat, so you can have a memory 1 and a memory 2 position. You can fold the door mirror by pressing this button. The one below it actually adjusts the angle of the glass on both the driver's mirror and the passenger mirror. Below that you have central locking in terms of both lock and unlock, the 2 front electric windows, and then the 2 rear electric windows. Below the 2 electric rear window switches is an isolator switch for the rear. As I mentioned earlier, if you have children, obviously you can isolate the rear windows so they don't operate. So here we are now in the driver's or the pilot seat. So what I'm going to do is run through the controls, which are basically what you'll see directly in front of you, which are both on the steering wheel and also just to the left and to the right. There's also a button on the dashboard to the left-hand side, which is the reset for the trip. On the steering wheel itself, obviously central to the steering wheel, of course, is the horn. As we move to each side, we have the controls for lights and also for wipers. That's both the front wash wipe and also the rear. We've also have a volume control button, which is here. Now this volume control button will control the radio volume, but it will also control the volume on your mobile phone when taking a call. There are 2 small arrows, and these allow you to effectively change channels on the radio if that's what you're listening to. And the other button below this is a source button, so it allows you to toggle between different sources. So one may be that you're listening to music on your mobile or through your mobile. The other may be that you're wanting to listen to radio. There's an information button, and what that does, it toggles through a number of screens, which is on the top part of the dashboard. Directly above that is what they call the driver's monitoring system. This is the section just here. And it's this system which has won the awards in terms of the vehicle's overall safety credentials. What that does is that it allows you to set 5 different driver's parameters in the vehicle. So you may be somebody that's 6'6" and have the seat a long way back. You may be somebody that's 5'6" and have the seat quite a bit forward. What this system does, it recognises the driver and makes the necessary adjustments to the seat. I mentioned earlier about 2 controls on the driver's door. That's if you want to turn your monitoring system off. You can actually set 2 driver's seating positions, but you do that more manually. So again, going back to the steering wheel, and we're talking specifically at the moment now about the EyeSight system and the adaptive cruise control. It is turned on by pressing the button in the top right-hand corner, and once you've reached your cruising speed, you press it down, this little button downwards, and set. And then what you do is, if you have braked, etc., you can then press it upwards and it will resume. Now the adaptive part of it means the vehicle will, if it is set up, for instance, at motorway speed of 70 and the traffic slows down to 50, the car will automatically slow down to match the pace of the car in front, keeping a certain distance. And you can set that distance by the use of this one, which gives you a greater distance between you and the vehicle in front, or this button here, which will give you a shorter distance. Now, this is also part of it is what they say the lane departure. So if you are going over towards one of the white lines, you will get an alert system, an alert sound, which will make sure that you do correct that and you make sure that you stay in lane. Below this, we have there's a little button that says SI. That is either driving in intelligent mode or sport mode. Now, the I mode is probably going to give you a little bit better fuel economy overall, where the sport mode changes the engine dynamics a little bit for a little bit more sporty performance. There's also a speed limiter fitted. And then on the left-hand side, probably at this sort of 7, 8 o'clock on the left side, you've also got another information system which will change the display on the dashboard. So that will give you things like your trip meter A, trip meter B, average fuel economy, fuel distance in terms of how far you are before the tank is due to run out. So you can have a bit of a countdown as well to make sure you don't run out of fuel, etc. And there's still a standard fuel gauge on there as well. So just to the right of the stop-start button, there is an array of other controls. The first one will adjust the brightness of the screen. So if you're driving, for instance, on an evening and it's getting darker and darker, you can actually turn down the brightness. There is a Subaru rear vehicle detection button as well, so you can turn that on and you can turn that off as well. We've also got a tailgate height adjuster. That means very simply that the tailgate opens to a particular height as from the factory, but you can actually make that a little bit lower if you wish. That's very handy if you are in the habit of, for instance, unloading your shopping whilst in the garage. If the garage doesn't have the correct height, you can just stop the tailgate a little bit lower than the ceiling height. You can turn off driver monitoring. Again, you've also got your sort of traction control part of the vehicle as well, your stability control, that's controlled down there. So having covered that part of the vehicle, we're going to talk about the controls that are just above the driver's head. The simplest one, I suppose, is the drop-down mechanism just here, which is for carrying sunglasses or different driving glasses, perhaps. There's an on-off for the interior lights. There, you can actually turn off the lane departure. There is a control which is for the Subaru rear vehicle detection. There's also a button here which operates the electric sunroof, which will slide the roof on this particular model all the way back. On different models, there are different functions. For instance, on an Outback, you can actually tilt the sunroof as well as retract it across the roof. Below the infotainment system, you also have the hazard warning lights. You have the temperature controls. Now that you can use them either as synced, so that means the left and the right, you can set the temperature to exactly the same temperature. Similarly, you can set them separately, so you could have a warmer side on the passenger side and a cooler on the driver side, just so you're able to set your preferences. You've got an opportunity to speed the fan up or slow the fan down, use the recirculate button. You can also set your heater for the rear screen and also for boost. So if the windscreen is frozen on a particularly cold morning, then you can set that on boost and it will help defrost that quicker. You can set the mode. The mode means where the flow of air goes, so it can either come straight at you through the central vents. You can have it directed to the central vents and your feet, or maybe your feet and also up onto the screen. So those adjustments are made via the mode button. Okay, so directly below the infotainment and heating system, what you'll find this selector. You have park, reverse, neutral and drive. You also have an opportunity to move it over to M mode, which is manual mode, which is when I mentioned earlier about the paddle shifts. It's when they come into operation. In the centre, we have what they call X mode. X mode is if you are doing off-road driving or find yourself on a piece of terrain which looks like it's going to be fairly slippery to manoeuvre downward on, you can actually select either snow and dirt, which is kind of normal levels if you like, or you can have one which is deep snow or deep mud. So an example, if you're a caravaner and you've been to a caravan site and you've had some very, very terrible rain, you can actually select potentially the mud mode, which is going to help with the traction control and the all-wheel drive system to get you off-site. I mentioned about the camera on the passenger door mirror. That view, you can actually toggle the view on the screen. So when you are actually reversing, for instance, that will show the rear of the car, but you can also activate it and it gives you a split screen. We have what they call an AVH, which is an auto vehicle hold. So again, if you are on an incline, but you're not wanting to put on, you'd only be there for a few moments, for instance, at a perhaps a motorway slip road where there are traffic lights at the top, you can select auto vehicle hold and it will hold you in position without activating the electric parking brake. And directly in front of that is just exactly that, the electric parking brake. Now, this is never meant to be a completely exhaustive handover, detailing and explaining every single part of the equipment. But I think the important thing is that you're never going to be alone. The dealer will be able to help you if you give them a call. You'll have the vehicle handbook, and obviously will probably have had a test drive prior to buying. But one thing, of course, to remember is that you have chosen to buy one of the safest, most capable and most reliable vehicle on the road. And we sincerely hope that you and your family go on to enjoy many, many thousands of miles in the vehicle and you have some fantastic adventures.